Hi there, I'm Anastasia. I'm a detransitioner, and I've already tried to film this video once today, and it didn't work out well. So I wrote down some notes, and I'm going to use these to help me through because otherwise I get way too sidetracked and I just start rambling about things that are on my mind. But I need to be a little bit more coherent. So, yeah. Hi. I have already made a video previously about my transition. It was around a year ago, a little bit over a year ago. Sorry, under a year ago. And that was when I was very early in my detransition. And it's been about a year since I've been off testosterone and since I've been socially detransitioning. So I thought that it was a good time to update. And yeah, um, firstly, I'm speaking a little bit quieter because my partner is sick and sleeping, so I'm trying not to be too loud. Um, but I really want to make this video and put it out there because I'm active on my Threads social media account, and a lot of my posts about detransitioning have gone more viral. And I want to make more of a video update to explain a little bit more about my experience in case people are curious. So, yeah, disclaimers. First of all, I do not regret my transition. Yes, I'm detransitioning because it's right for me, um, but I don't regret my transition. And in fact, transitioning did save my life, and it was a great part of my life. And it's a part of my life that some days I really want to go back to. Um, but I'm on this part of my path now. Who knows where the future will lead? This is just where I am currently. I also do not speak for the trans community as a whole or the detrans community as a whole. Everybody has their own experiences. This is just purely my own thoughts, feelings, things I've been through. Um, I do not have any hate or ill will or anything towards the trans community. I still feel very much a part of the trans community. I'm very openly queer. I have people in my life that are trans women, trans men, non binary, people all over the gender spectrum, and I include myself in that still because even though some people might think that, oh, well, you've detransitioned now, like you're a cis woman. Yes, but also I come across as a trans woman in a lot of different situations. Um, and I'll explain that further later. And I transitioned for almost a quarter of my life, or I think about a quarter of my life. So, like, I was a trans man for a quarter of my life. So, I still very much connected and love the part of myself which was and is trans. So, getting that out of the way, here's a little bit of a backstory in case you don't want to watch my previous video. So, my transition history is a little bit complicated. I socially transitioned when I was around 13, 14, and I went to gender therapy. I was going by a different name and pronouns, and I was very active in the queer community um, in my childhood. So I was on this thing called Trevor Space, which was kind of like a social media for queer people. I don't know if it's still a thing. It was when I was younger. It was like for queer youth. And I was exploring more about my sexuality and my gender at the time, and that's when I first transitioned. And then I got really bullied in high school, and I detransitioned mainly for safety purposes. And I then, a few years later, got into a serious relationship, which turned out to be abusive, and I wasn't able to transition during that time or experiment with my gender. I kind of did a little bit more secretively, but yeah, once I got out of that relationship in 2018, I started to transition socially, and then I got on testosterone officially in November of 2018. And I was on testosterone until May of 2024. So, yeah, that's a little bit of my transition history. So, right, why did I detransition? There's a few different reasons. I have always been very feminine in certain regards. So I like dressing up. I like doing makeup. I like um, being more of a feminine role in a relationship. I don't want to say things that are like not politically correct, but I fear that I might anyways. But I'm much more of a submissive, quiet, feminine person. Always have been, and um, I think that during my transition as a trans man, like there were certain points where I was very masculine. I was hyper masculine at certain points, but I always carried myself in a more feminine way. I tended to um, adopt more like feminine roles in relationships. Not always. I used to be the main one that would pay for dates and take people out on dates and other aspects of relationships. But yeah, so tend to be more feminine. And towards like the last year that I was transitioning, I was kind of experimenting more with my femininity a little bit. I started doing makeup a little bit more. I started to dress a lot more androgynous and just experiment. And I liked it. I felt really good with myself. And I got to a point where my body and my face match the way that I feel. And that's caused issues in my detransition for sure. But yeah, I had like a banging beard and mustache. I love my facial hair. I loved it, love it. It's a pain in the ass now because I have to shave every day, but it looked really good on me. And I like my body. And but I had doubts about transitioning, and I was like, I always kept it a possibility that I would detransition. Just like when I was detransitioned in that intermediate part, I always kept it a possibility that I could retransition. So it was just like something that I always kept in my mind. Um, and then I unfortunately got pretty severely sexually assaulted last year, and I wasn't healing well. I was going through some vaginal atrophy due to long-term testosterone usage, which another disclaimer, not everybody goes through vaginal atrophy and other symptoms from long-term testosterone usage. I have a very sensitive body, and so my body reacts to medicines and substances and even anything I consume, like food, like a lot more significantly and severely than other people might. So this is purely my own experience. And so I was dealing with some kind of bad symptoms from being on testosterone for so long. And one of those is vaginal atrophy, which is like vaginal dryness, pain, um, uh, easier to wound, bladder and urethra issues, and so on and so forth. And so when I got assaulted, it was quite violent, and I wasn't healing correctly inside. And so I was bleeding for a while. I had discomfort for a while. I couldn't sit properly for months. I was having a lot of issues. And so I understood, because I had noticed in the past that my negative symptoms from testosterone would alleviate a little bit when I had a lower dose and get worse when I had a higher dose. I was like, I should just get off completely. So that was the first step I made. I went to the doctor after everything. And I think in the second check that I went in, I was like, I'd like to get off of tea. And I went off of tea, cold turkey. I got no warnings from my doctor about how that would go, but that's a whole different story. Um, so that was my first step. And then socially detransitioning came a little bit later. I was thinking about it for a little while, and then I was like, yeah, I'm going to go public and tell my friends and people about this. So then I went public about detransitioning, and I started to shave my face. I started to grow my hair. Well, I was kind of growing my hair already, but kind of just dress and present more femininely um, after that. So that's how it began. Um, let's talk about physical changes. So, physical changes since detransitioning, breast growth has been a huge one, which I'm glad about. Um, but it's also been extremely painful, like so painful. Like, I feel like, because I have a very irregular period, which I'll talk about in a minute, but months in in anticipation of getting another period cycle, my breast will hurt so badly. It feels like almost like a cow that hasn't been milked in like weeks. It hurts so bad. I don't produce milk, so don't get any ideas, Homelander. But like I, it really hurts badly. I have a very irregular period, as I said. I don't know if that's just a me thing or if that's a detransition thing. I get it. I can't even tell you because it's so irregular. But usually the flow is pretty heavy, and it's quite uncomfortable. But it doesn't last too long. So like if I get a period, then I'll like have it for like 5 days. But I have had issues with spotting for like 15 days, where it was like brown, and that was weird. So I've had those issues. Um, Fat redistribution and everything. I have always had very much of like a little hourglass figure in it, like nothing like to write home about, but like I have an hourglass figure. Those are my measurements basically. I think I'm like I forget my measurements, but like anyways, my bust pretty much matches my hips. So I've always had that. It's become a little bit more prominent as I've detransitioned, um, but pretty much pretty similar. Um, Body hair still grow. I grow like Sasquatch. I'm a very hairy girl, but I'm also Tatar. I'm Russian Tatar, Volga Tatar. So like I grow a lot of hair. Facial hair growth hasn't slowed down a bit. I am just one hairy person. So that's constant taking care of. The worst part is trying to take care of my shoulders. I have very hairy shoulders, so that part I just kind of like honestly try to ignore and take care of every once in a while. It's gotten a little bit easier because my hair is getting longer, but yeah. Um, Voice changes and stuff. No, I've always sounded very feminine. I think maybe it's lightened a little bit, but I also don't know if that's like kind of a conscious thing because like sometimes like people do like conscious things to act more masculine or feminine. So I don't know if that's just something like behavioral wise I've implemented. I can still talk pretty deep, but not right now because I'm trying to be quiet. Any other physical changes? I can't think of any others. Oh, my vaginal atrophy has gotten better. I still suffer from certain issues, but I think that that more has to do with sexual trauma rather than effects of testosterone. But yeah, let's talk about social changes. This is going to be interesting. So, socialization has changed dramatically since detransitioning, both in like with strangers and with people that I know. Um, so since I've had kind of a interesting transition history, the people that knew me before I transitioned, so they knew me as female before I transitioned, some of those people didn't talk to me when I was transitioning. And then they started to talk to me again after I detransitioned. And I noticed that and I didn't like that. And I don't talk to them because that's really fucked up. Um, then the people that met me while I was transitioning, so while I was out as a trans male, who have since watched me detransition, most have been supportive and lovely and wonderful and welcoming. However, especially my friendships with like cis men and stuff have been challenging. And so I've had to cut a lot of people out of my life and put up a lot of boundaries and stuff, which is fine. But it's interesting kind of coming back into the female sphere, and having to face a lot of, um, this is two-handed. So a lot of really like toxic femininity issues, which I wasn't really aware of before. And I'm having to learn and navigate that. And also the amount of like objectification and sexualization that I've noticed more occurs from like the male gaze. So, as I said, like I've had to, remove some people from my life and stop some friendships with some people because they started to like objectify me. and kind of treat me like a possible um, like potential partner in the future. I'm dating right now, by the way. I think I mentioned earlier. Wow, mentioned earlier that my partner is sleeping in the other room and is sick, so I'm trying to be really respectful of him. But like, yeah, I'm dating somebody. So, but before I was dating him, like there were certain friendships and stuff that I had to, put up a lot of boundaries. And then when I got with my partner, I had to cut ties with some people because I don't want them to treat me like just a woman that they want to be with, or somebody that they want to be with potentially. Like I don't want to have that kind of situation, and I also don't want to interact with people that would disrespect my relationship. So that's one thing. The toxic femininity thing. Let's talk about that because everybody talks about toxic masculinity. People don't really talk about toxic femininity, and I want to bring it up because it's something that I've been really thinking about a lot lately. And the things that I've found really challenging with it are that, like, coming back into the female world, it's very competitive in certain ways and very vain and very fake, and also very like dysregulated. And so there are like certain notions of and certain like stereotypes that I feel like are perpetuated, like negative stereotypes that are perpetuated by some women, that I don't want to participate in, and I don't want to, you know, excuse. Like, I don't want to compete with other women. I don't want to center my sexual and visual self as more important than my personality and, developing better traits. I don't want to I don't want to like excuse my emotional irregularity. I don't want to um, brush off men's needs. They're like different. That sounds like such a pick me thing to say. I don't mean it like that. I mean, like, I don't want to be participating in something that's harmful to women and men and things that make my life more difficult and make socialization and relationships and friendships more difficult. So that's something that I'm really learning. Let's talk about emotional changes. This is the hardest part for me. So something that I was really worried about when I started to detransition was dealing with my emotional irregularity because I was struggling with that a lot, um, like throughout my life, but especially pre-transition because testosterone really helped me calm down and regulate my emotions, and face certain things that were more difficult. And when I got off of testosterone, I noticed it immediately. Not like immediately, but like pretty soon after, I was feeling like not great. Um, and since then, it's gotten worse and worse and worse, to where I am seeking a lot more help right now because I can't manage it. Um, so, one of my issues is that when I feel happy, I feel really happy. And when I feel sad, I feel like bad, like worse. You can feel I get like physical symptoms like cardiac issues and pain, like full body pains, shaking, crying, the whole 9 yards. Um, Lots of ideations and wanting to like, self-harm. And that's not okay. That's not okay for me. That's not okay for the people that are around me. And while I'm somebody that I've been in therapy almost my whole life, and I have a lot of coping skills and mechanisms to help guide me through things. I do a lot of journaling, I do a lot of art, physical things like walking and eating better, cooking, engaging in different hobbies and things like I run my own business. I do a lot of writing of my novels. Like I have a lot of different healthy coping mechanisms and stuff. And I'm somebody that is very self-disciplined and self-motivated. If I'm on track, if I fall off track, um, it can be pretty bad. And if I'm overthinking too much, then it's really hard for me to think clearly. And so it's been, especially recently, I've been having to face a lot of negative things about myself that I'm not proud of and I'm not happy about. And that's really scary and really hard. Um, it's hard to admit how wrong you can be, and hard to admit also that you really need to change things. Not only, like, I feel like physical changes are sometimes easier. Like, if I need to go walk, then I can go walk, um, because I'm able to. But like with emotional changes, that is kind of, I'm having to redirect my thought processes, redirect my biases, my attachments, my associations, my trauma. And it's so intertwined. I overthink so much, and it's so detrimental to me and to people around me. And my mental health is just bad. So recently, like this week, I reached out to 988 first because I was in a really bad spot. And then I reached out to my doctor to see if I can get on medication, like a mood stabilizer and anti-anxiety. I'm not sure what they want to try me on yet, but it's time because I can't. I find it very hard to. I need help. That's like bottom line. It's just I need help emotionally, and I do a lot for myself, and I can do a lot. I'm very self motivated, as I said. Like I'll do the work, but I think that I need something that will, like an aid that will help me through it. So getting on some medicine to push me forward a little bit and keep me going is what I need to do. But I struggle to make that step because I've been on medication in the past and it didn't work out great. And I also have a lot of trauma with a family member who abused me pretty badly, who is addicted to prescription medication. And so anytime I take medicine, I just think about that and it makes me not want to take anything. But I'm like, nope. Most of the people that I love and care about are on medicine. And I'm like, I need it too. Like, I think that it's time to where I don't want to ruin relationships and ruin myself, and feel so bad all the time or so dysregulated all the time that I need something that'll help boost me up a little bit. So that's where I'm at in my emotional life. Regrets. Do I have any regrets with transitioning? Nope. Even though it hasn't worked out for me in the long run right now, it's not something that I regret. It's not something that I regret learning so much about. I've met the most amazing people because of being transgender. Um, and because I'm a detrans person, there's so many trans people that I interact with on the daily still, or that like welcome me still in the community that like I love. So, I'm so openly queer and so glad to be, that, yeah, I don't have any regrets. Yes, I have some issues long term because of being on testosterone for so long, and it's hard detransitioning. It's hard, kind of, sometimes when people mistake me for a trans woman, not in the sense that you might think. Like, I'm not upset by being mistaken for a trans woman. I'm more worried about my safety because, people are very vicious and dangerous towards trans women. So that is more where my concern lies. I love trans women. I think that they're absolutely beautiful. So I have no, like, there's no offense there. It's more like a safety issue. Um, so, yeah, I don't have any regrets at all. Moving forward, improvements. I already told y'all about like improving my emotional health. I'm just really like taking care of life at the moment. There's a lot of stuff going on. Like my detransition and my transition were never, or are never like the biggest part of my life, but they are huge talking points at the moment. I've noticed that, like, on social media, like, the posts that I've made that have gone viral are strictly about my detransition. So that's why I'm talking about it, because I want to bring another perspective into the conversation. I want to, show that detransition and like can be very open-minded and positive, and you can look back on your transition without hatred and disgust and shame. Like, I feel no shame, I feel no disgust, I feel no hatred, I feel no regret for doing what I did, for living my life. Um, like, I'm all life is transition, all life is change. So yeah, I just kind of view it as just another part of my life, because like I was transitioning for a quarter of my life. Um, and that's a big thing. I think that it's sometimes hard getting up and having to shave my face every day and have to, deal with some like differences since getting off of tea. But you just got to move forward and find new solutions, and the people that care about me really care about me, and I'm very accepted. So I feel very grateful. Um, yeah, that is about it, I think. If y'all have any other questions, please comment, or you can find me on Threads. If you want to, I'm an artist and I make stop motion animation video shorts on Instagram called Tsunkova Diaries. And yeah, so you can follow my art if you'd like. I don't know if I'm going to make many other detransition videos in the future, but I felt like having a 1 year detransition update was appropriate. So yeah, I hope that you all have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for watching.